The years passed. King Nebuchadnezzar was gone. The great ruler who once commanded the world had died. His time of glory had passed. But Babylon still stood, shining like a jewel. Its walls were tall. Its gates were strong. No army had ever taken it. People believed it would last forever. But the seed of its downfall had already been planted. Something had already started. Something no one inside the city could see. A new king now sat on the throne, Belshazzar, son of Nabonidus. He was not like his father. He was proud. He was careless. He didn't remember the lessons of the past. He didn't fear God. But the king's pride went too far. Therefore Belshazzar said,
"Let us drink. Tonight we honor our gods and ourselves."
Far away in the east, a new power was rising. The Medes and the Persians, led by Cyrus the Great, were coming. Their army was strong. Their plan was bold. But inside Babylon, no one worried. Gates were closed. The walls, guarded by King Belshazzar, felt secure. Belshazzar laughed. He didn't pray. He didn't seek wisdom. He prepared a feast. While Cyrus planned his attack, Belshazzar planned his party. He called 1,000 nobles to the palace. There was wine. There was music. There was dancing. Everyone laughed. But above them, in heaven, something else was happening. A decision had been made. Judgment was on the way. The night went on. The wine kept flowing. The laughter grew louder. But the king wasn't finished. His pride pushed him to do something even more dangerous. Belshazzar stood and shouted,
"Bring the golden cups, the ones taken from the temple in Jerusalem. Let us drink from the treasures of the Hebrews. Let their God watch us now."
These were not ordinary cups. They were holy. Long ago, King Nebuchadnezzar had taken them from God's temple. They were meant for worship, pure, sacred. But now, Belshazzar wanted to use them for his party. The servants brought them in. The king, his nobles, his wives, and concubines lifted the sacred vessels, and they drank. They raised those holy cups and praised the gods of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. They mocked the God of Israel. They laughed. Even a noblewoman joked.
"Their God is silent, just like their city."
But heaven was not laughing. Suddenly, in the midst of the celebration, the room changed. The music stopped. The laughter ceased. The dancers froze, because on the palace wall something impossible was happening. On the wall, by the lampstand, a hand appeared in the darkness. Not a person, just a hand, glowing with fire. It moved slowly and started writing words on the wall. Words no one could read. Fear fell over everyone like a heavy cloud in the room. No one moved. No one spoke. The glowing hand had vanished, but the writing remained. Strange letters burned on the palace wall. No one could understand them. The king started. His face turned pale. His knees began to shake. He shouted,
"Bring the wise men, call the magicians, the astrologers. Let them tell me what this means."
One by one, they came, the smartest men in Babylon, but they were helpless. They looked at the words. They whispered. They guessed. But none could read it. None could explain it. And the fear in Belshazzar's heart grew deeper with every moment, until, from the back of the hall, the Queen Mother entered. She had seen many kings. She had seen the power of God. She spoke calmly.
"O king, do not be afraid. There is a man in your kingdom, a man filled with the Spirit of God. In the days of your father, he explained dreams and solved mysteries. His name is Daniel."
And so they sent for him. Daniel, the prophet, the man who once stood before Nebuchadnezzar. Now he stood before Belshazzar. Belshazzar looked at him urgently and said,
Are you that Daniel, the wise man of my father? If you can read the writing and tell me what it means, I will reward you. You will wear purple. You will receive gold. I will make you the third ruler in the kingdom.
But Daniel's heart was not moved by gold. Daniel stood before the king, didn't bow, he didn't beg. His voice was calm, his eyes steady. He looked at Belshazzar and said,
You may keep your gifts. I don't want your gold, but I will tell you what the writing means.
Daniel turned toward the wall. The letters still burned like fire. Then he spoke, not just to the king, but to everyone in the room.
Your father, King Nebuchadnezzar, was powerful, but he became proud. He forgot that God is the one who gives power. So God humbled him. He lived like a wild animal until he learned that the Most High rules over all kingdoms. But you, Belshazzar, you knew this, and still you lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven. You brought his holy cups to your party. You praised idols, things made of metal and stone. You have not honored the God who gave you breath. That is why this hand appeared. That is why the writing is on the wall.
Daniel pointed to the words.
This is what was written. Many, Tkel, Pi Arson, Meni. God has counted the days of your reign and ended it. Tkel, you have been weighed and found too light. Pi Arson, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
Everyone was silent. No one moved. The fire in the letters still glowed. It was not just a message. It was a sentence. Judgment had come. The king had been warned. And while Belshazzar tried to recover his breath far, then outside the palace, something was already stirring. The waters of the great river were going down, and soldiers were on the move. That very night, while the king trembled, but there was no time to react, so the end was already near. Because at that very moment the Persians were upcoming already inside Babylon. In the darkness, Cyrus the Great had devised a brilliant plan, something bold. He had diverted the flow of the Euphrates River, the river that ran right through the middle of Babylon. And while Belshazzar drank and mocked God, Persian soldiers marched through the dry river, entering without resistance. No one stopped them. No guard stood watch. Inside, Belshazzar was still in his palace, pretending to be safe. But the kingdom had already fallen. The soldiers moved like shadows through the streets. The city didn't even know it had been conquered. And before the sun rose, the impossible had happened. Babylon fell. The great empire was no more. The golden floor was broken. Belshazzar was killed. The most powerful empire in the world crumbled in an instant, and the kingdom of the Medes and Persians rose in its place, just as God had said, just as Daniel had proclaimed for the kingdoms of men to pass away, but the dominion of God is eternal. The city that once mocked heaven had fallen in one night. No wall, no army, no king could stop what God had planned. And though Babylon fell, Daniel still remained, because those who walk with God are never truly shaken. Babylon has fallen for centuries, and the Persians now rule the empire. But Daniel still stood. Though kings changed and thrones crumbled, the man of God remained. Cyrus the Great, king of Persia, placed Darius the Mede in charge of Babylon. And even under this new kingdom, Daniel was honored. He had not fought with swords. He had not chased after power, but his wisdom, his integrity, his faith, they lifted him higher than any crown could. The city around him had changed. The faces of rulers had changed. But one thing had not changed. The hand that wrote on the wall still ruled from heaven. The kingdoms of men rise and fall, but the kingdom of God stands forever. And Daniel, now older than ever, would go on to see things no man had seen before. Dreams, visions, warnings, promises, and the hope of a kingdom that would never be destroyed. This was not the end of Daniel's story. It was only the beginning of something greater, because even in the middle of fallen empires and broken kings, God was still writing history, and those who trust him, like Daniel, will always have a place in his plan.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of faith. If you believe these Bible stories can touch hearts, please leave a kind comment, and share this video with your loved ones. Don't forget to subscribe to Bible Adventures, where we bring God's Word to life through epic, heartfelt animations for kids and families alike. May you and your family always walk in God's blessings and peace.